Hello. I was thinking today about how teachers give tests and how they give quizzes and how we try to assess students on what they know and how we try to communicate the information to students who may have never seen it before. And I'm always trying to improve things and try to do things maybe differently or better. And I came across this idea, and I just wanted to run it by you. Instead of say, all right, the way that I work it now in my classes, I give a bunch of little mini quizzes, and then every quarter we give like 2 or 3 or 4 tests, and that's how the grade is determined. But I had this idea today. I was thinking that somewhere out there's like a skill tree for what we want students to understand. So for example, in pre-calculus we study quadratic equations and eventually quadratic functions. Now, under that category, there are these little subcategories of things that we want students to master. We want to know that they can solve quadratics by factoring. We want to know that they can solve them by completing the square and by using the quadratic formula. And there are little breakdowns for these among all kinds of topics. Like for equation solving, we could a skill that we would want to test on might be solving linear equations, solving absolute value equations, solving equations involving radicals or fractions or whatever. What I had in mind is, what if at the beginning of the year or of a semester or something, what we do is the teachers pass out a skill tree that sort of outlines every topic that we're going to do for that quarter or for the year or whatever. And for each one of these subcategories here, well, each plan would have so many big categories like this, or I don't know. It could be operations with fractions or rational equations or whatever. But each one of those big things will have like a couple of subtitles associated with it. And generally, these are the skills that we want students to learn. And what we give one big test that tests on everything. Well, I had the idea, if we pass out this skill tree at the beginning of the year, and I say in advance that for each one of these subtopics, there's going to be its own sort of small test or a big quiz or some kind of a testing device that only tests on problems of this type. And as we go through the year, there's going to be one. You can take this one at your leisure. So, for example, when we're covering quadratics and we first start talking about solving things by factoring, there will be a factoring quiz out there that will be available after I go over the lecture in class, and you can take it at your leisure. Whether you pass or fail, you can always take it again or take a different version. I would have maybe half a dozen versions on hand for you to take. And you take it as often as you need to until you feel that you get a grade that's satisfactory or that I run out of quizzes to give. And there would be one of those for every one of these. So you would take them whenever you wanted, and you would get a grade on them, and that would go to part of your grade. But then I would take like collections of these things and make, say, one big test that covers all 6 of these. And those are the scheduled tests that we take throughout the year. So it would just be, you would have one big test that you had to take, and you weren't very flexible with it. And sort of to help you prepare for those, I would give out, I would have the availability of doing problems, of having these sheets or these little tests that just cover these individual topics that you could take at your leisure to decide whether you were comfortable enough with the material to take the one big test that covered everything. Now, it's just so you would have sort of like your own skill tree to track your progress through the course. Whenever you took a test, you would mark down the grade that you got out of it, and so you could always look back over your progress and see what you needed to improve or work on more or whatever. And you would get to keep the tests or hold on to them maybe, and that's how you would prepare for the big test that went across a whole bunch of topics. And after we did everything that covered all these, it would just start all over again. We would go to like a new skill set, and there'd be a new big category with a bunch of other subheadings, and you would do the same thing for all these, and then at the end we have one big test that covers the entire thing, and then on and on and on. We could do this we could also have multiple levels of these little subheadings. So for example, we could have easy versions that maybe don't count for quite as much, and then we could have harder versions that were worth more points that you could take or not, depending on whether you thought you were ready. We could also have little branches from these subtopics that would cover things like extra credit, or say certain types of word problems, and it would have its own like little sub test on just certain types of word problems, say with percentages, or problems with distance, rate, time, or certain little like subgenres of topics in here. And I don't know, I was just kind of kicking this around, and I wanted to get a little bit of feedback on it, just to see what people thought. I'm not married to it. I'm just not quite smart enough to see all the pros and cons of such a proposed policy, and I'm kind of wondering what students think. If this is something that you would be interested in, if there was a lot of interest, I would try to find a way to incorporate it into the way I would try to find a way to incorporate it into the way I teach. And if not, I'll just trash it and think of something else. So I would really appreciate your feedback on all this, positive or negative. If you have anything to add, just let me know. And thanks for watching.